Okay, let's now have a look at transforming parabolas. Transforming a parabola means shifting the parabola either up, down, left or right, or changing the shape of the parabola. Okay, so to do this we're going to use Desmos to have perhaps get a better feeling for what we can do here. So we'll switch over to Desmos. Now the simplest parabola that we can sketch is the sketch y equals x squared. Now, by the way, when using Desmos, that little icon for a keypad exposes the Desmos keyboard, which you'll need to use if you are going to sketch using Desmos. So if we go y equals x squared, that's the simplest parabola we can create. And you'll notice that it's got an x squared term in there, which makes it a parabola. And there's our characteristic parabolic shape. Now, I can change the shape of that parabola by putting a number in front of the x. So, for example, if I made that y equals 2x squared, notice that the parabola becomes skinnier. I can make that 5x squared, becomes even skinnier. I can make that 17x squared. I can just keep going up and up and up, and the skinnier it gets. On the other hand, I could make that 0.5x squared. I can make it 0.1 x squared. Notice how it's getting fatter. I can make it 0.01 x squared. Now it's getting really wide. But notice in all those cases, the parabola is an upward parabola. It's a happy parabola. It's like a smiling face. We call that a positive parabola. If I made the number in front of the x squared a negative number, if I put a negative sign in front of it, look what happens. So y equals negative x squared becomes a sad parabola. It's like a frown. And once again, I can put other numbers there as well. I can make that y equals negative 6x squared. Whoops. Y equals negative 6x squared. Notice it's a very thin, unhappy parabola or negative parabola. I can make it y equals negative 20x squared. A really thin, unhappy parabola. Can you predict, if I wanted to make a very wide, unhappy parabola, what number could I put in front of the x squared to make that happen? Have a think. Well, I've given you a chance to think. Hopefully you would have come up with something like 0.1 or 0.01. Whoops. To make a or make that perhaps a bit too wide actually, 0.05, there you go. So the number in front of the x squared changes how wide the parabola is and whether it's a happy or sad parabola. Okay, so that's one thing we can do to affect the shape of the parabola. We can also affect the position of the parabola. So if I now added a number to the end of our equation, at the moment we've just got y equals x squared, but if I made it y equals x squared plus 5, notice what's happened is it's the same parabola as y equals x squared. I was just typing y equals x squared there. It's the same parabola. It's just been shifted up 5 units. On the other hand, if I went y equals x squared minus 3, it's the same parabola, except this time it's been shifted down 3 units. And so that number on the end, the plus 5 or the minus 3, or y equals x squared minus 15, in each case, that number on the end is simply moving it up or down. Those parabolas are all the same shape, they've just got different vertical positions. They've been shifted up or down. So that number on the end shifts the parabola vertically. If it's positive, it shifts up. If it's a minus, it shifts down. Okay, so now we know how to change the shape of the parabola. We know how to make it happy and sad, and we also even know how to move the parabola up and down. Now, to move the parabola left and right, let's have a look at what we can do there. So, remember in one of our examples, we said that y equals x, we'll put it in brackets, x plus 1, close my brackets and make that squared. That's actually a parabola. Because remember, if you expand it, if you multiply that out and expand the brackets, you end up with an x squared term. I'll hide the other parabolas just to make it a bit easier to see. All right, so there's our y equals x squared, the blue one, and there's our y equals x plus 1 squared. Notice they're exactly the same shape, except our purple one, y equals x plus 1 squared, has been shifted over to the left by 1 unit. What happens if I made that y equals bracket x plus 2 squared? Notice it's the same shape, it's just been moved to the left 2 units. Now you can probably imagine if I went y equals bracket x plus 5, close my brackets and square, you can probably guess what that's going to do. It's the same parabola, except it's been moved over to the left by 5 units. What do you think we need to do if we want to make it move to the right? We've had a bit of time to think. Let's have a look. Y equals, let's try the opposite, shall we? So if x plus 5 squared moves it to the left, then it probably stands to reason that a minus sign in there will move it to the right. And there we go. We'll actually enter that, and we'll just return on that and enter. And we can see that it's moved to the right by 5 units. We'll try another one. Y equals x minus 8 squared. And you can see, once again, it's the same shape as all the others, except this time it's moved to the right by 8 units. And so what we can conclude from that is that if we put the number in the bracket and we're adding it, it'll move to the left, and if we're minusing it, it'll move to the right. Okay, so that's basic transformation of parabolas.